Revelation 12:11, and they overcame him, the devil, by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. And they cared not for their lives, even unto death.
All right, Mondo, can you tell me what happened when you were 11 or 12 years old?
Yeah, so I was 11, 12 years old. I was really seeking a mentor for my life, someone that could take me under their wing, because my dad had committed suicide when I was 6 years old. And so to have that fatherly figure in my life would be vital for me. And one of my cousins would kind of take me under his wing, and we'd go fishing, we'd do all these great things together, thinking that I was maybe finding a father figure or a mentor in him, just to later have him sexually abuse me. And that took a real toll on me, and it put a lot of things seemed broken. They seemed like I would have to put things together and heal from certain things that I wasn't sure what it was going to take. But as I'm moving on and moving forward, and then the direction that it would take me next, and the very thing that would happen next was,
I was made to testify. I was born to fall in love. We were meant to glorify the King that stands above.
all right, if you will, help me welcome to the stage very good friends, a very close friend that we've known for many years. They'll be coming through this door. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, help me welcome Whitney.
And as you speak, 100 billion things disappear. When you lost your life, so I could find it here.
Woo! Hey, you're wrapping it up for us. What do you think? You're not nervous, are you?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
I really thought the lights were going to be dim, but it's really not.
All right, I know you're. They'll probably we'll probably dim them down a little bit here. I know that you're nervous. So one of the things that I have to coach you on is just make sure you keep your mic close to you.
Like that?
Yeah, because
Is
we
that
get a lot
better?
of nervous people, and they're like, sometimes they're like. So. All right, so what I know that sometimes nerves, so everyone at the count of three is going to take a deep breath with Whitney. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Is this the first time, like, you doing this publicly?
Yes, in front of a live audience. I did like a pre-recording, but
Okay,
But
it's a little bit
yes.
different.
Yep,
Yep.
definitely.
Well, we have a very loving and compassionate group here with CJ Youth. So I always want to come up with some icebreaker questions, so kind of just break the ice, right? One of the things is, how much does an elephant weigh?
We'll say 2 tons. I
Okay,
don't even know what a ton is, but we'll go with that.
okay. I'm going to tell you how much an elephant weighs. It weighs enough to break the ice. All right, okay. All right. I did that. I know, my drummer's gone. All right. So, Whitney, if you had to eat at the same restaurant for the rest of your life, what restaurant would that be?
Chili's.
Chili's. All right, okay. Reese and Amber are excited about that. Okay. Was that Amber? No? I don't know. I just heard a woo back there. Okay, next question. What is your favorite type of movie?
Thriller.
Thriller. Okay, all right. Like kind of suspense and nice, nice. Whitney, what do you like to do, like, for your alone time, your own time? Is there somewhere you go? Is there something you do? Like, if it's just gonna be you and your time, what does that look like for you?
The only time I have alone time is in my car, driving back and forth to work, and just listen to music or talk on the phone.
Okay. All right. Making some conversations. What were your thoughts when you were asked to be part of this Testify series?
Absolutely not.
And so, how do you feel like you're wrapping it up? You are the last exclamation mark from the series.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay, so tell us about Whitney Turner's childhood. Like, growing up, what was life like for you as a child?
I didn't have a really good childhood. My dad was an alcoholic, and so I remember being a very young age and just bad memories. I don't remember a lot of good stuff.
So this started like around what age would that have started for you?
Like 5 or 6.
5 or 6 years old. Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I have an older sister
Okay. And where did you live growing up?
in Eunice, America.
Eunice, America. All right. We have any Eunice people in the house? All right. Okay. All right. Represent it. Hey, you got to represent, man. You got to represent. Let's go. Cardinals. So growing up, your dad being an alcoholic, like you just remember this at 5 or 6 years old, this was your life. Did you ever notice that as a child that in your home, your upbringing looked or seemed different than that of your friends or other people that you knew? Like, did you notice that? When did you start kind of thinking that?
I don't think I ever really noticed it just because we weren't really around a lot of people. So to me, it was just kind of normal. My sister, my mom, and I were very close. And so as long as I had them, then we were good. Or so I thought.
Right. So it was you had both your mom and your dad at home. Did you feel like even in that situation, would you say, hey, I was really loved by my mom and dad?
Yes, I would say that.
Okay. So tell me, when we were talking, you were telling me a story that you remember, because I asked you, what do you remember about a story about a Christmas tree or Christmas time? Tell me
Yes.
about that.
So I remember my dad had been out, I don't know where, I don't know for how long, I don't remember, but he came home drunk and I think fighting with my mom. And she must have called my grandpa over, which is my dad's dad. And them two started fighting, fist fighting, and they went through the Christmas tree. So what should have been a good time, I remember them going through our Christmas tree.
Right. And it's crazy because you were maybe how old at that time?
5 or 6.
And like you just remember that vividly.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So tell us, like, did you grow up going to church? Did you was that part of your life?
I went to church with my best friend and her family. I would always spend the night with her on a Saturday, and so Sunday we had to get up and go to church. But I didn't go with my parents. They never were involved in that.
So in your experience going with your friends, what do you remember about going to church?
We would always be in the choir. It was a little bitty church, and so there weren't a lot of us. So we would do like Christmas programs and all that stuff.
Okay.
And I did get baptized there. I remember that, but I don't remember how old I was. And my parents did go to that, so I mean.
Right. Okay, so that's another memory that you remember, being baptized there. So what was, like, 5 and 6, you're going through this with your dad and your family. What are some of the things that what was that experience like becoming a teenager? Like, would that go away? Would it get better? How would that progress?
It did not get better. I don't remember a lot in between. I just remember like being 13 in junior high. It was always like that. It was just kind of our way of living. It would be like my dad would start drinking on a Friday and all weekend. And then Sunday, he was very apologetic and would say it would never happen again. But of course, it always did the next weekend. And that was just kind of our way of life.
What were some of the situations at home, like Friday, Saturday? What were those weekends like? Any moments? What were the moments like Was he just by himself? Like what? How would that impact the family?
Well, he had a hard childhood, so that's what he self-medicated because of his childhood. So when he would start drinking, he would want to talk about it, and so on and on and on and on, and like we were honestly just like ready for him to pass out so we could have some peace and quiet.
Would it ever turn violent?
Yes, not towards me. He never put his hands on me or even tried, but he would my sister, and I was their protector, her and my mom. I don't remember him ever putting his hands on my mom, but I do my sister. But I would always step in and take care of them.
That was like on a regular.
Yes.
Like almost every weekend you had to
Yes.
go through this. So 13 years old, and I think we have a picture when you were about 14. 14 years old. If you watched our social media post, that was one of the pictures where she was 14, and you told me you had braces, right? In
Yeah,
this.
I think in that picture I do.
So you were 14. What was dating like for you? Is that kind of when you started dating, right? 14 years old. Tell us about 14-year-old,
Yes. So
8th grade. Yes.
So I was 13, and I don't know why I remember, or how I remember, but it was around Christmas time, and I started dating a boy in Eunice. He was 2 years older than me, in December, and then I turned 14 in May. So he and I started dating.
How did you meet him? Like, how did you know him?
He was the same age as my sister and was in the same grade as her.
Okay. So, did you go through this process? I mean, you start dating a guy. Did you go through the process like he's got to meet your parents and that whole
Oh, no.
permission to date?
No, he would drive up to the house with his music bumping, honk the horn, and I would run out of the house.
Okay. All right. So there was no guidelines, no barriers,
No,
no dating or relationship advice
none at
that
all.
you would receive. Was this guy nice to you?
Yes, at first, when we were first dating, of course,
Right.
he was.
Would you say he was respectful?
No.
Okay. Why would you say he was not respectful?
He didn't, I guess, get to know me at first, and I was very young and impressionable, and I think that he took advantage of that.
So, how serious was this relationship with this guy?
It was very serious.
Pretty serious.
Mhm.
So, at this age now, you turn 15 years old, right? And you and I were talking about a trip. You lived in Eunice. You're talking about a trip that you and your boyfriend took into Hobbs. Tell us about that trip.
So we came to Hobbs one night to get cocaine for his family member.
I'm
And
glad you clarified that, because if you're like,
I
okay,
know.
big
What-
deal,
like,
you came to get a
Not
Coke.
something you drink.
I know they don't have Coca-Cola in Eunice. So I just want to clarify. You got in this truck and you're coming to Hobbs to purchase cocaine.
Yes,
Up until this point, what do you know about cocaine?
absolutely nothing.
Okay, so you're in this truck. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, so we came to Hobbs and got that for his family member and drove back to Eunice, and it was offered to me, and I had never seen it before.
So you were still in the truck?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. He had gone into the house to drop it off, and then I think he came out, and it was offered to me, and I didn't know a thing about it. And I guess just, again, because I was so young and didn't want to look like, that I wouldn't try it, that I said, okay, and tried it for the first time when I was 14, 15 years old.
So he had to direct you in this
Oh, yeah,
because you
definitely.
didn't have a clue.
Right.
You've never done any kind of drugs up until this point?
No, I had smoked weed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you were kind of you were introduced into this. So that was about 15 years old?
Yeah.
And so we have a picture of you when you were 16, I think.
Yeah.
You were 16
Well,
years.
I was a junior there.
Okay.
I was going to prom.
Going to prom. All right. So in this picture, you have already tried and tested this drug.
Yeah, I was probably well addicted at that point. I don't think you could tell. I mean, I always thought I hit it pretty well, but
Yeah.
no, it was probably a year into it, maybe.
So, well, we'll get to that. How long would you date this guy?
A total of 4 years. So when I was 13 till I was 17.
So, starting at 15 years old until you graduated, you were addicted to cocaine.
Yeah,
I
pretty
mean,
much.
up until
I mean,
your
it
graduation.
wasn't, right. It wasn't overnight, obviously, but
Right.
I mean, the more you do it, I guess, the more you
Right.
get addicted to it.
If you're 15 years old in the room, stand up for me real quick. If you're 15 years old. Anybody 15? There's a 15-year-old. 15, 15. 16. 16-year-old. 17. We have any 18-year-olds in the room? Yeah, we have some 18-year-olds. Yeah. All right. That's just so hard for me to like just picture at 15 that you're introduced to this. Whitney, what are the effects of cocaine? Like, I guess what are the effects and what are the side effects?
So the first time that I did it, I really don't remember feeling anything except my palms were very sweaty, and it was just, I don't remember any effects that time, but the more I did it, it was like your body craved it. Makes your mouth very numb, makes where you can't talk. But you won't, at first I wanted to be around people. And it kind of lowers your inhibitions where you just think you're 10 feet tall and bulletproof. Now, it didn't stay that way, but at first it was fun because you just felt like you were the life of the party.
So, had the ability to make you be someone that you really weren't.
Yes.
So, come your senior year, you're graduating. Do you stay with this guy? Is this you guys continue the relationship?
No, he was 2 years older than me, so he had left to go to college, and so we tried, but he actually was cheating on me, and so we finally just ended that.
Was cocaine at that time the only thing that you would struggle with?
Yes.
Okay. Did it ever include, like, did you drink? Did you, like, was that part of it? Explain that to me a little bit.
I would only drink when I was doing coke. If I wasn't doing that, then I didn't drink at all. I didn't even like the taste of beer, and that was the only thing I would drink. But when I was doing that, I'd drink a 12 or 18 pack by myself and smoke cigarettes.
So, 19 years old, right? You're graduated. I mean, are you going to school? Are you going to college? What's the game plan? What?
I didn't really have a game plan. Whenever I graduated high school, I did really well. I was able to function. I don't know how, but I made straight A's. I had scholarships to go to college, but I didn't go. And I made the excuse that it was that I didn't want to leave home, but it was more that I didn't want to leave my addiction and the people I knew, because if I went off somewhere, I'd have to kind of start all over.
So you're no longer with this guy. You're still with the addiction. At 19 years old, you meet another guy.
Yes.
And
so,
how did you meet this guy?
just in the drug scene. We just knew the same people.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you dated this guy for how long?
Off and on 5-6 years, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might be a rhetorical question, but was it healthier or better than your last relationship?
It was better, actually.
Okay.
At first, I mean, it was.
At what point did it not become good? What did you realize about him?
Well, he, So he didn't do coke, but he did meth. And so, and I never did that. I wasn't interested in that, but that's a whole new ball game. And he was a lot older than me and had nothing. He didn't have a job, which was fine, you know, in the beginning. I mean, we're just all having a good time, but yeah, it was just, he had nothing to be as old as he was. And
Within those 5 to 6 years, you're 21 years old, and you become pregnant with your daughter.
right?
So 15 years old, now you're 21. So from 15 to 21 years old, you are addicted to cocaine.
Yep.
When you found out you were pregnant, would you stop? Like, what would happen?
I stopped. I wouldn't even touch it because I was afraid it was going to get to my daughter somehow. I mean, she was in my body. So I didn't do it at all. I was able to, didn't have an issue stopping.
So throughout your pregnancy, you maintained. Did you feel like life was a little bit clearer, a little bit better? Because obviously you got sober in that moment. Did you see it as better?
I did, but I was so young that I really didn't know where do you go from there. You know, obviously you want to get a job and all that, but I was pregnant. I mean, how do you know, so I had some hope, but I just didn't really know what the next step was.
Would your daughter's dad stay in the picture?
No.
How long would it be that he would?
Off and on after she was born, 4 years maybe.
'Kay.
3, something like that.
So maybe at 3 years, like he's completely out
Mm-hmm.
of the picture. What would happen once your daughter was born? Like, would you continue to remain sober? Would you continue to stay that straight path?
I stayed sober for about 2 months after she was born. And then I think, well, he was still in the picture at the time, but he was gone a lot, in and out. And I think I was lonely maybe, and it was maybe a way to cope. I don't know why. I honestly don't know why I started doing that again, because I had no issue stopping when I found out I was pregnant. But yeah, so about 2 months after she was born.
Would this, even your daughter being young, would this impact your daughter as you continue this addiction? Like, how would it impact your daughter?
It would impact her. So I would do it. It's awful. But I would do it like when she was in the house with me. I mean, she didn't see what was going on, but she could tell that like I changed, like my demeanor changed, everything changed. And she would act out to where like she would scream at me, try to kick me. And then I'm like, don't know what to do. But so she knew something was wrong. She just didn't know what.
So years go by, you're 26 years old, and you meet another guy.
Yes.
So, okay, I was trying to get this story straight as far as like I thought initially you were working somewhere where you saw this picture, but that wasn't the case. It was about a lost. You used to work there, but it was something about a key.
Yes.
Okay, tell the story.
So I worked somewhere at Permian GMC, but I didn't work there anymore. But my lovely sister had locked her keys in her car, and we couldn't get into it. So I thought, well, I know the people that work there. I'll go over and see if I can get you a key. And so I did that because I think normally you're supposed to have the title or show some kind of proof to before they'll make you a key. But so I said, well, since I know those people, I'll go and I'll get you a key made. And I saw a picture of the lady that I had used to work with. There was a picture of a guy there.
And explain the picture to me.
Well, he was just good looking.
All right. Okay.
You could tell that that he was in prison, but for me, that was the best scenario because you can have this relationship with somebody in prison and still get to do whatever you want to because they're not physically there with you.
Okay. So this is where you met Chris.
Yes.
Do you guys remember Chris? Right? Chris was our very first guest on Testify. Y'all, this is Harley's mom. Right? How many of you knew that? How many of you got it? No. How many of you like figured it out? Not you knew. Like, how many of you figured out who it was? No. A few? All right. I did this last time. Do it again. Harley, you want to stand up for us? This is Harley Davis.
Yay!
Yes. She turned out so great.
She did.
She is. She
Praise
is.
the Lord.
She is amazing. So I have to ask, why would you think, looking at Chris's picture, who is incarcerated, that this was a good idea? I'm talking to you from my dad hat. I'm just talking from a dad perspective. It's like, why? Tell me. You got to give me good reason here. Okay, he was good looking. What intrigued you, or what made you want to pursue?
Well, I was always attracted to bad boys, and that was like taking it to a whole nother level.
Okay, all right.
And again, because I could say whatever I wanted to. I could be anybody I wanted to, and he wouldn't know because we talked, not at first, but eventually just talked on the phone, and so I could tell him whatever I wanted to.
So you could maintain this relationship, and there's really no accountability. Did you ever think that it would progress into more of a relationship?
No, I did not.
Okay, so you weren't even considering like this was going to be long term. But then as time went on, you would start visiting Chris.
Yes.
And you would visit Chris in prison. Tell me about, as you're visiting Chris, you're taking Harley. And I remember, of course, but some of you remember where at the time Chris is practicing Satanism. And so Harley meets a friend, right? Mm-hmm. And Harley, tell us about what happens when Harley meets this friend.
So about this time, Harley is in first grade, and she met a friend at school that kept asking her to go to church with them, or for me to take her. And I was like, I am not taking you to church.
I like how you made that face, like for me to take her.
Like,
you would come pick her up if you
Yeah.
want to take her.
Like, what a hypocrite. I mean, I might be a lot of things, but not a hypocrite. So I was like, no, I'm not taking you to church. And absolutely not. And
You're visiting. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes,
I'm gonna let
and
you
then
finish.
so I had brought it up to Chris on the phone that Harley was wanting me to take her to church, and he was like, no, absolutely not. That changes you. Well, I don't remember if he told me that, but that's what he was thinking. Like, I think he was afraid that it would change us or me, and then I wouldn't want anything to do with him. So at first he was like, no, like you're not going to church or taking her to church. But then we went to visit, and Harley was sitting on his lap, and God told him, you can't keep her from me. And so he was like, you can take
While
her to
he was
church.
practicing Satanism.
No, he was better at that
Okay,
time. But
okay.
I'll be honest, I don't remember us even really talking about that much
Right.
because it wasn't important. I mean, at the time, if I'm being honest.
Okay, so you go to church.
Yes.
By the way, the power of inviting somebody to church. A first grader invited her friend to church. And I'm not the one that's supposed to get emotional up here, but anytime when it comes to a restoration, the power of that is so overwhelming. Tell me about your experience going to church. You take Harley to church.
So she finally gets me to take her to church, and it's on a Wednesday, and we walk in, and it was just different. It wasn't, I apologize, but sometimes churches are boring, but this one was inviting, and it was just different. And so I was like, wow, this is really cool. And now at this time, I was tired of being the way I was, still doing coke, still drinking, smoking, but I didn't know how to not be that way because I had done it for so long. Um, I wasn't willing to probably admit it and go to rehab or anything like that. I didn't have a lot of faith in that because I had seen my dad. So I didn't want to be that way, but I didn't know how not to be. So anyway, so we go to church on a Wednesday. I thought, well, this is really cool. So then we went the next Wednesday, and after every service, he would ask, if you walked out of this church tonight and got hit by a car, do you know where you're going? Like, are you going to hell or are you going to heaven? And I was like, wow, like, I have no idea. I've never thought about it. And so then he asked, if you don't know, raise your hand. We want to pray with you. Well, my hand goes up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, because I don't like crowds.
What are you doing?
Yes. So I put my hand down, but the usher had seen me, and he was like, oh, come on, come up here. So there I go to the front of the church.
Them ushers be watching y'all. I'm telling you.
And so he prayed over. There was a group of us, and he prayed over us, and literally overnight, I had no desire to do coke anymore. He took it from me.
So it's gone. Whitney, 15 years old to 29 years old, 14-year cocaine addiction.
Yeah.
Would you slip back ever
Yes.
after your salvation?
I did. Maybe 2-3 times I did it again, but it wasn't the same. I felt extremely guilty, and it wasn't fun. Like it was.
It didn't impact you like before?
Yeah, no, it was totally different. I was very paranoid, and just in my body, it just wasn't right. It just something had changed.
I meant to bring this up. When you would go visit Chris, they would have to scan, right? They would have to scan your hands. Why when you go visit somebody in prison do they in the world scan your hands?
They scan your hands with this little wand thing to see if you've been handling drugs, like packaging drugs to take in there.
Right. And so what would happen when they would scan your hand?
It would go off on me every single time. And it's not because I was handling drugs. It's because I had done so much that it was coming through my pores.
And like, how would you? What would you say?
I mean, well, there's other reasons that it would go off, like pumping gas or handling money. And so they wouldn't let me go in there because like there was a percentage rate that it could be, and it would be fine. Well, mine was off the chart, so they would send me home. But I would just make something up. And I don't know if Chris believed me, but I just don't think that he wanted to just let go of what we had kind of built, and
So we have a family photo of you and your family. Yeah. And talk to us about that little guy.
Oh, that's baby Daniel. He is now 6 years old. In that picture, I think he was like 3 or 4, so it's been a few years. But he is the baby. He's the baby. Harley's my best friend, and Daniel's my baby.
Okay. So we always ask for a statement, Whitney. We ask our guests to give us a statement about their life, their testimony. And you and I were talking, and you said, this is my statement. We have it up there. Read that for us.
It's, Jesus delivered me from darkness to be the wife and mom I was called to be.
Amen. I love it. All right.